Hey, this is Lee from the Play Guitar Academy. Just a quick live stream today. I wanted to come on for a few minutes and talk to beginners about some of the things they're going over. I've been doing a lot of beginner stuff lately for the past week or two, and I thought this would be a lot of fun to go through. And the title today is what the three things really that beginners aren't expecting when you're starting guitar. Everyone, when they go down to the guitar shop, pick up their first guitar, they have these, they think this is going to be great and it's just going to click right away. And that's not exactly what happens. Most people have some struggles when they first start playing, and it's things that kind of throw them for a loop. They're not really sure why it's so tough to play. So I thought I would go over a few of the things that make your first few months to first 4 or 5 months of guitar. These are the things that you're going to run into that you probably weren't expecting. So let's go ahead and get into it. The very first thing that people struggle with is that there's so much to learn. It looks easy. You see someone who's playing guitar, they're playing chords, bar chords, leads, all those kind of things. They might not even be looking at the guitar, smiling, having fun. It looks so simple. But the truth is, there's a lot of skill involved. Now, yes, once you get those skills down and once you're really settled with the things that you're learning, it does get very easy, but it's a uphill. It's a big battle to get to that point. So here's some of the things that I was wanting to talk to you about. When you first start up, you try to learn chords first. Usually that's what everyone wants to learn first, because songs are the big draw. Everybody wants to play their favorite songs, all of those kind of things. And here's the progression where it opens up. First, you try to learn the chords. You start playing the chords, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I can play this one chord. Well, where do I go to from here? That's when it opens up. So chords that you're struggling with, and you start to get them, all of a sudden that opens up to chord progressions. How to move back and forth quickly and smoothly between the chords. So now the one thing that you were focusing on, just being able to play the chords, now you've got exponential difficulties that are ahead of you. So you start to work on that. You start to work on moving back and forth quickly, getting your fingers in these shapes. All of a sudden, that once you start to get a handle on chord progressions, then it opens up again. Then you're on to rhythm. Okay, I can play these chords and I can play them one after another. I'm playing in songs and those kind of things. Now, they're still not sounding quite like you hear a lot of other people playing them. And then you think, well, what am I going to do now? How do I make myself sound more like these people? Then it opens up to rhythm. And so here we are. We started off with chords. Chords opened up to chord progressions. Now chord progressions open up to rhythm. Rhythm is tough. Okay, well, especially if you're not coming from a musical background, chords are super, super tough at first, and rhythms are how we present the chords over time, when to play the chords. So you work on your rhythms, you get some basic rhythms down, get some basic strum patterns down. So we've gone from easy chord to easy chord progressions to easy rhythms. Now guess what? It opens up again. So now you want to put these chord progressions into collections, which are songs. Songs that sound good, have a beginning, middle, an end, a form, all of those things. And there's so many different ones to learn. All your favorite songs have different forms that you have to play. That opens up again to singing. If you want to sing and play guitar, there's another difficulty that opens up. And then once you are used to doing that, usually lead guitar comes along after that. So you see, one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. These are difficulties that people get surprised at. Oh my gosh, I thought this was going to be so easy. Each one of those steps has so many different ways to go depending on the sound, the songs that you want to play, the styles of music that you want to play. It really never ends. And you never really get to that point where you're just like, oh, I'm settled. I can just play guitar now. Now you do definitely get to a point where you're competent on the guitar and you feel you feel comfortable being able to play things, but there's always something new to learn. And that is a big change for a lot of beginners, going from, I need to learn this, I need to learn this. You never seem to get to that point where everything's smooth and it's going good. There's always something to learn. And the sooner you get comfortable with that and realize that playing guitar is a journey, it's not just, if I learn this, I'm done. Okay, so that's the first big thing that I found that beginners aren't expecting when they start guitar. Let's talk about the second one. The second one is about buying gear. Now, when the typical student goes into learning guitar and they say, okay, I'm just going to get a guitar. I might, if it's electric, I might get a little amp, and then I'm good to go, and I'll be good to go. Or just, I get an acoustic guitar and I'll just have one and it'll be wonderful. It never works out that way. Rarely does someone have their one guitar that they started with and then they play that for an extended period of time. Usually months go by. And then all of a sudden you start thinking, well, maybe this would be easier if I got a better guitar. Or maybe if my amplifier sounded better. Or maybe if I use different picks, or if I use different strings. And this gets you to something called the gear rabbit hole. So what happens is you start off, you've got great intentions, and all of a sudden the urge to start collecting gear, as you can take a look here, I've collected a little bit of gear over the years. I don't have as much as I used to, but you start wanting to collect more and more gear, have different things. And that feeling that I'm going to be comfortable and safe with one guitar and nothing else, and I'll just practice that for a long time, it rarely lasts very long at all. So expect when you're getting into learning the guitar that you're going to be paying a little bit more for other gear as you go down the road. And the last one I wanted to talk about, and that is the playing itself. And the one thing that I think this was the biggest one of all that beginners aren't expecting is how difficult it is to play chords at first. In our world that we live in, it's easy to be good at a lot of things, especially with apps and software. There's music software. It's the learning curve is pretty quick. You can be able to play pretty well on a lot of different things. The guitar isn't that way. The guitar uses a lot of different skills all at the same time. And when you get those skills together, that's when it looks like it becomes easy. The problem is it takes a while to do that. When you're playing chords, the first thing is just making the shape of the chord. Look at the angle my arm's at. If I took this guitar away, that's how my arm is. People don't usually walk around like this. People don't usually have their arm in this position. So just physically holding a guitar and getting your arm into the place where you can play a chord correctly, it's always difficult at first. The next is pushing the strings down. You're using the tips of your fingers, which don't get a whole lot of use in this way. And with those steel strings, it could be nylon strings, which are much easier to press down with. Steel strings, pressing these things down, your fingers get very tender. You can see the tips of my fingers have little lines in them, even though I play all the time. And you have to build up something called calluses. And so we've got two things now. We've got the getting our arms and fingers in the shape of the chord, being comfortable with that. Pressing the strings down is our second one. It's how difficult it is. And then the next thing is actually performing the chord in a way that it sounds good. Watch this. I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to slide them back just a little bit. So this is a big thing that a lot of beginners do at first, is they put their fingers too far back from the frets. When we play and push down a fret, what we're basically doing is making the string smaller. So if we played the string open, it would be this long. Let's say I wanted to press out the 5th fret. The part of the string that rings now is smaller. It goes from here to here. Okay, so what happens is when we press down a fret, all we're really doing is pressing behind the fret where the string is, so that from the fret forward, the string is ringing, and from behind the fret, our finger's right there as close as it can be. The farther back it goes, the more chance we have for buzzes and muted notes. So most people, when they learn a chord, you get your chord box and they put their fingers down, and then all of a sudden they'll try, okay, I'm ready, I'm going to play my first chord. And if they're too far back, like I am now, it might sound something like this. Right? Not the notes don't ring, they get buzzy. And watch the difference. I'm going to strum this, and as I slide up to the frets, listen to what it sounds like. So what happens also when a player will start to try and play a chord with their fingers too far back, is they'll think, well, I'm just not pressing down hard enough. So they start really clamping down on the chord, which does a couple things. One, yes, maybe you might get it to play, but you might be pushing out of tune by pushing down too far. Also, it gets your hand used to really having to press down. If you press down right behind the strings, right behind the frets on the strings, it's actually easier. You don't have to put as much force down to get a clear sounding chord out. Also, when we're not used to playing chords, usually people go at the guitar like this. Okay, that's the angle that they go at. What happens is that puts your fingers, when you have to reach around like this, at kind of an angle. And when your fingers come straight down on the chords, that's when you get the best sound. That's when it's easiest to play. And that's also when you don't accidentally touch other strings that you don't intend to play. Okay, so getting used to getting your hand out in front and pressing straight down on the strings so that you're not accidentally touching these open strings. So those three things make learning chords in the beginning very, very difficult, and they take a while. As I go through my beginner course, I introduced two chords a week, as we're also working on technique exercises and actually some beginning scale patterns and a little music theory, really getting the hands stretched out and ready to play all of these new chords. And you find after a week or two, you start to learn them a little bit faster. So that's my small live stream on the three things that beginners aren't expecting when starting guitar. If you're starting guitar and you may run into a few of these things, I'd be happy to help you with them. And I have something actually for you that could really help. I have a free guide. It's my guide to clear sounding chords. So when I talk a little bit about the things, I talk a lot about some of the things I talked about today, but a whole lot more. It takes you straight through all the basic chords, tells you exactly what adjustments to make sure that they all come out clear. And this is where you can find that guide. It's at playguitaracademy.com/chord guide. Very fun hanging out with you today on the live stream. And I am really excited about getting this guide in your hands and hoping that it helps your beginning guitar playing out. All right. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.